guys, today we're going to do the 12 hardest Castlevania bosses. The rules for this list are the same as the easiest bosses list. 1. I'm only doing the Castlevania games I've played, which are Castlevania 1 and Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, which means I won't be doing the DS games and the 3D games. 2. Every Castlevania game I've played will be represented at least once on this list. Besides Simon's Quest and Castlevania The Adventure, because the bosses in those games are so goddamn easy that they don't deserve to call themselves bosses. Lastly, I'm including the fun kind of hard and the bullshit kind of hard. With that said, grab your trusty vampire killers because it's hunting time. Honestly, it was very hard for me to find a difficult boss of the Castlevania Harmony of Descendants' bosses because 99% of them are extremely easy and brain dead. Thankfully, Devil isn't one of them. He'll shoot a fire beam that moves towards you that isn't very hard to dodge. He'll also do a flame slash, which is kinda hard to avoid. Lastly, he'll shoot a flame wave towards the wall, which is easy to avoid. Ah, Harmony of Dissonance, if only you had better bosses. Castlevania Bloodlines isn't much better than Harmony of Dissonance in the boss department, but at least the bosses aren't brain dead. Thankfully, Two Faces isn't one of them. Two Faces will shoot 4 electrical balls in sets of 2 that bounce around the room, which are hard to avoid. After the first set, they become faster and harder to dodge. However, if you brought the axe or the electrical orb sub-weapon to this fight, then you've already won.
Wait a minute, how the hell did Abraham Lincoln come back for Castlevania Bloodlines?
Don't question it, Bluetailed, it's a video game.
Oh, okay.
Super Castlevania 4's bosses are easy but fun. Out of Super Castlevania 4's bosses, there's one boss that I never look forward to, and that's Laguna. I'll shoot a fireball from his spear that is hard to avoid. If that fireball hits you, it explodes. I'll also do a short dash towards you that is very hard to avoid. After you hit him enough times, he'll lose his spear and do short dashes towards you that is very hard to dodge. On top of that, his hitbox is so fucking large that he can hit you without even touching you. What kind of bullshit is that? I didn't even touch him. For some reason, every time you hit him, Saglura will have an explosive reaction which causes him to skyrocket off screen and fall back down to where you're standing. The fuck? Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge's bosses are a mixed bag. Some of them are easy while others are extremely hard and annoying. One of those hard and annoying bosses is Julius Belma. Julius moves around the room and throws 3 swords in the air. The swords will either go down, left, right, or downward at an angle, left/right. By the way, each sword moves in a different direction. Sometimes they fall in the same direction. By the way, those swords are very hard to avoid. Julius also does a whip attack which is damn near impossible to dodge. It also does 2 balls of damage. You know, second thought? Fuck that, I'm heading straight for Dracula. Castlevania Dracula X's bosses are fun and challenging. Out of Castlevania Dracula X's bosses, Carmela is definitely one of the greatest. Carmela will use her eyes to attack you with 3 different attacks. She will turn her eyes into fireball eyes that follow you, which is pretty hard to avoid. She will also combine her eyes together and spin them around, which is hard to avoid. Lastly, she will turn her eyes into lightning bolts that move around and strike the ground, which is pretty damn hard to avoid because they move very quickly and you barely have enough time to dodge them. Well hey, at least Annette became a badass boss in the bad ending. Castlevania Symphony of the Night's bosses are fun, challenging, and unique. One of those bosses is Orlox. Orlox will slowly jump around and unleash bats/skulls to follow you, which isn't very hard to avoid. Afterwards, he'll summon 3 pink waves in the air and shoot a blue energy attack at you, both of which aren't very hard to dodge. After you take care of his first form, he'll transform into a green monster. He'll summon large rainbow flames on the ground, which is pretty hard to avoid. Afterwards, he'll stretch his arm towards you, which is pretty easy to avoid. Lastly, he'll rapidly shoot fireballs in a wave, which is pretty hard to avoid. You know what would be really funny if this one-time boss came back in the final chapter of the Castlevania timeline as a major antagonist? Castlevania Circle of the Moon's bosses are either passable or incredibly fucking irritating. The Twin Dragon Zombies is one of those irritating bosses. They will rapidly shoot fireballs in a wave which is extremely hard to dodge. Afterwards, they'll swing their heads towards the wall and make some rocks fall, which is insanely hard to dodge. They will also try to bite you, which is hard to avoid. Lastly, they'll shoot a white projectile towards you, which is pretty hard to avoid. They also take for fucking effort to kill. By the way, the remaining dragon zombie will eat the deceased one in order to heal himself. Just let that sink in for a moment. Castlevania Aria of Sorrow's bosses are fun, challenging, and unique. One of those great bosses is Balar. Balar will punch you with his right hand, which is pretty hard to avoid. If he hits you, it will send you flying to the other side of the room. Damn, and I thought the knockback from Ninja Gaiden 2 was bad. Balar uses his left hand to grab you, which isn't very hard to dodge. Afterwards, he uses both of his hands to slam the ground, which is very hard to dodge. He'll also use both of his hands to crush you, which is pretty hard to dodge. When he's low on health, he'll use his eye to set the ground on fire with large flames that can be incredibly difficult to avoid. Sometimes he'll do it from the same side, which can throw you off and get you killed. By killing him, you have successfully avenged the giant bat he killed. Back to the great boss lineup of Aria of Sorrow. Out of Aria of Sorrow's bosses, Julius Belma is easily the best boss in the game. Julius will jump around and whip you, which is hard to avoid. He will also do a air kick and a slide attack, both of which are very hard to dodge. After you hit him enough times, he will perform the Grand Cross. It is very hard to dodge, but it does look cool. Afterwards, Julius will throw sub-weapons into the mix. He'll throw an axe, which is pretty easy to dodge. He'll throw 1 or 2 crosses at you, which is kinda hard to dodge. He'll also throw holy water on the ground and form 5 flames that move across the ground, which can be very hard to dodge. Lastly, Julius will dash around on the ground to go through you or to disappear and reappear behind you. By the way, when Julius performed the Grand Cross, it literally ripped the castle in half. He did that at the age of 55. Well, goddamn, I can only imagine how devastating that attack would have been in its prime. Castlevania 3's bosses are either extremely easy or extremely hard. The Dolphin Ganger is easily the hardest boss in the game. The Dolphin Ganger will morph into whatever character you're playing as. If you're Trevor, it will throw 1 cross and whip you, which is pretty hard to dodge. If you're Sypha, it will use a flame spell, which can be very hard to dodge because of its range. It also uses Sypha's sword thing, which is very hard to dodge. If you're Grant, it will throw an axe, which isn't very hard to dodge. If you're Alucard, it will fire off 3 projectiles towards you, which is pretty hard to dodge. Sometimes the Dolphin Ganger will just stand in one place and use the same attack over and over again. You do know I'm up here, right? Castlevania 1's bosses are either easy or extremely fucking irritating. One of those irritating bosses is Death. Death will move around the room and summon 4 sides that move around the room that are next to fucking impossible to avoid because they move very quickly and spawn in random spots. By the way, 1 hit from those sides is 4 fucking bars. The only way you're gonna beat this boss is with the holy water. If you don't have the holy water, then you're fucked. What can be harder than Death himself? Well, we'll find out at number 1. You know, the funny thing is, I used to think Castlevania Dracula X's incarnation of Dracula was the hardest Dracula fight in the series, but then, I played Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Dracula will teleport to you and he'll open his eye. The eye is the weak point. He'll unleash red bubbles to attack you, which is pretty easy to avoid. Dracula will also summon meteors that fall from the top of the screen to attack you. The meteors are very fucking hard to dodge because you don't know where they are. Dracula will summon a large flame wave that's very hard to dodge. After you hit him enough times, Dracula will start flying incredibly quickly across the screen 2 to 4 times before his eye appears. Its attack is pretty easy to dodge, but it does a fuckload of damage if it hits you. When his eye appears, it will be surrounded by bats that are very hard to dodge. Sometimes you'll get hit by them because you didn't know the eye appeared there. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Anyways, peace out.
Alright you guys, we have a couple of announcements before we end this video. Next month will be Mega Month, like 5 whole videos themed around Mega Man. And the next video will be Mega Man 02 review. By the way, we're deciding whether or not we want to record our own footage for that game. And since we can only record up to 2 minutes, we're gonna be splitting recording a lot, but we haven't decided if we want to do that yet. Anyways, no guarantees that next video will come out on time or not. And yeah. Also, by the way, we're finally on freedom vacation / summer break, which means no more spending 8 hours of our life in school. Yeah, anyways, peace out.